Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Tony East, writer for The Fever and the Pacers, set to join me next segment. Usually he joins me at this time on Wednesdays, but we had to push it back a little bit. He's got stuff going on. Great things going on, to be a little more exact. So he's coming up here in about 10 to 12 minutes. Before he comes on, though, I want to talk about the NBA Finals, Game 3 tonight in Dallas. Dallas got to win this one, okay? Dallas just really need they have to win tonight. And the Kristaps Porzingis injury is going to have an impact on this series. Okay, he got hurt in Game 2, and when it happened, it was obvious. Okay, this is the biggest storyline heading into the game tonight. Okay, this is a bigger storyline than Kyrie Irving struggles. This is a bigger storyline than, whatever else you want to bring up about this series. It's bigger than the Jason Tatum struggles. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, Kristaps Porzingis suffered a torn medial retinaculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis. Now, you probably heard that and you're like, Jonathan, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't know what that meant either. The first time I read it and I heard it. So I went to Google and I figured it out for you. CBS Sports released an article where they talked with Jeff Stotts, who is a certified athletic trainer and injury analyst. So they asked him what the injury was, and here is his response. Quote, "The medial retinaculum is a connective tissue that serves as the roof of the tarsal tunnel. Think carpal tunnel, but in the foot. It anchors multiple structures in place, including the tendon of posterior tibialis. If the retinaculum is torn, the tendon can shift out of place or dislocate, causing pain and instability of the ankle and foot." And as of right now, Porzingis seems like he's fine. He's listed as day-to-day, and he was asked yesterday during their media time if he was going to play tonight, and he said that he fully intends on playing. And listening to what he said and reading the reports and what the injury is, seems like Porzingis is fine for now. But there's a decent chance that he could re-injure, that he could make the injury worse, that he could actually dislocate that tibialis, which sounds incredibly painful. And if that happens, he'll be done for the rest of the series. So it seems like the current injury is fine. There's just a great concern for what could happen to him going forward. And look, it's not surprising at all that he's going to try to play, right? Like, it's the NBA Finals. Everyone's going to try to play if they can, right? And if they're questionable, then they're going to, do all the rehab and the therapy needed. Like Luka is getting pain injections before games. Dwayne Wade used to get shots in his knees so that he could play. Like, that's just what guys do in the NBA Finals. And when it comes to Porzingis, he's doing the exact same thing, but I doubt he's going to be the same guy. Okay? The play that Porzingis got hurt on was clear as day, and after that, he wasn't as good. He barely played after, actually. He gets hurt. They play like 5 possessions. Joe Mazzulla calls timeout, brings Porzingis over, and he sits him. And he barely played after that. And when he was on the floor, it didn't feel like he was. So even if he plays tonight, I don't believe that Kristaps Porzingis is going to be the same guy. And that is a big issue for the Celtics. Now, Celtics can still win if he's hurt. The Celtics, right? Like, I'm not saying that the Mavs are going to win now, right? But it definitely helps the Mavs. As full disclosure, as a Dallas Mavericks fan, this is a good thing for me. Okay, because Kristaps Porzingis is the player that makes the Celtics feel unbeatable. I love Al Horford. Absolute legend, but he's not as good as Porzingis. The defense that Kristaps Porzingis brings to the floor is where he makes his biggest impact. It is. During the regular season, the Celtics' defensive rating with him on the floor was 95.5. So basically, per 100 possessions on defense, the Celtics only gave up 95.5 points when Porzingis was on the floor. The Celtics as a whole, their defensive rating was 107.6. The best defensive rating in the league was held by the Magic at 100 even. That means that when Kristaps Porzingis is on the floor, the Celtics have the best defense in the NBA. It means that their defense is better by 12 points when he's on the floor. Okay, and that has been on full display against the Mavericks too. Okay, he has defended the rim at an incredibly high level. 5 blocks through the first 2 games doesn't tell the full story. He has made everything at the rim so much tougher. When you watch the Dallas Mavericks play basketball, if you want to know if they're running successful offense, don't look at how many points they're scoring. Don't look at if Luke is scoring. Don't look at if Kyrie is scoring. Look at 2 things. Are the Mavericks getting lobs to the rim? And are the Mavericks generating open corner threes? Those are the 2 things that they want to generate outside of Luka and Kyrie doing their awesomeness when they have the basketball in their hands. And with Porzingis on the floor, he makes doing those 2 things so much tougher. His length and his athleticism is basically taking away the lobs altogether. And when he's not on the floor, it's just easier for Dallas. Like Al Horford and Luke Cornett, the 2 backup centers, they're good players. But they aren't going to impact the defensive end of the floor the same way that Kristaps Porzingis does. And then on offense, they aren't going to have the same impact as Porzingis has had either because he's been great offensively in these first 2 games. Kristaps Porzingis has punished every switch that he has gotten. Every single one. When the Mavericks have ended up putting a smaller player on him, he has posted up, at 15-ish feet, and he would catch it, turn, shoot it over the top. And he made it. It feels like every time, right? Like that's been an important part of the Celtics offense. And when we look at Luke Cornett and Al Horford, they can't do that. Al Horford a decade ago, if he got a switch, he would throw his back to the basket, post up, and go score. It's just not who he is anymore. At this point of Al Horford's career, he's basically a catch and shoot guy. That's really all that he does on the offensive end. When it comes to scoring, obviously he's still a very talented passer and he sets screens and he does those things. But if he gets a mismatch, he's not going to post up. That's just not who he is. And Luke Cornett, same thing, except he's not going to post up and he's not going to shoot threes. To be clear, the Celtics can still win this series with a limited Porzingis. The Celtics can still win this series without Porzingis at all. It just becomes more difficult. Horford is going to see the bulk of the minutes if Porzingis is as limited as it kind of seems like he is. And if he doesn't play at all, then Al Horford definitely getting the bulk of those minutes, probably going to play 38 to 40 minutes a night if Porzingis isn't available. When you look at the production from Al Horford, there is a noticeable drop-off when he plays 20 to 25 minutes versus 30 minutes plus. There's a noticeable drop-off. So that's going to have an impact. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that I am most intrigued to see if Porzingis can't go or if he's highly limited. If Luke Cornett plays, that spells trouble for the Boston Celtics. The Dallas Mavericks, if Luke Cornett plays, he hasn't played at all in these first 2 games. If he plays, the Mavs will be able to put a traditional big guy on him, so Lively, Gafford, whoever, and have much better rim protection because Luke Cornett can't step out to the three-point line like Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis and space the floor. What does that mean? Why is that a big deal? When Gafford and Lively can hover around the rim, that means that perimeter players like P.J. Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., Kyrie, Luka, they don't have to help. They don't have to help off shooters, and that makes it tougher to generate the open three-point looks that the Boston Celtics want. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Celtics navigate that. They could go small, but Joe Mazzulla has made it pretty clear throughout these playoffs, like when Luke Cornett and Kristaps Porzingis were hurt against the Pacers, he threw Xavier Tillman out onto the floor. He doesn't like to go small. That's not what he likes to do. So that is the thing to watch. Does Luke Cornett play, and how do those minutes go if he does? Once again, Celtics, they can still win this series with a limited Porzingis, but it just becomes more difficult. He's an impactful player on both ends of the floor, and if he can't be the guy that he's been in these first 2 games, it's going to have an impact on the series. Now, game 3, more stuff going on than just the Porzingis injury. Kyrie Irving has been terrible, but he's more than capable of turning it around. Okay, he did it in the 2016 finals when the Cavaliers came back after being down 3-1. Games 3 through 7 against one of the best teams ever, that 2016 Golden State Warriors team. Games 3 through 7, Kyrie Irving against Klay Thompson, who was an awesome defender then, averaged 30 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. on 51% shooting from the field and 46% from three. That's absurd. I'm not saying that Kyrie Irving is going to do that, but he's more than capable of turning things around. Okay, Luka Doncic is going to continue to play well on top of everything else. Like, he's going to score his 30 points. It's going to happen. Just go ahead and write that one down. He's going to grab, 8, 9, 10 rebounds because that's who he is, and that's just what he does. And he's going to get 8 assists or more, right? Like, that's just write it all down. Like, that's going to happen tonight because Luka Doncic does it in every single game. The question with Dallas is whether or not the other players are going to show up. Is Kyrie going to score? Are the role players going to hit open threes? Something that they haven't done at all in this series. They didn't do it in game 2, and if they had, then they probably would have won. Right? Just looking at game 2, a game that Dallas has got to be kicking themselves for not winning. If Kyrie had a normal game, Dallas probably wins. If the role players for Dallas had shot better than 2 of 17 from 3, then they probably win. And I think tonight, going back home, they should play better. And they should. They better up their game because Boston hasn't lost a road game at all in the playoffs. They are 6-0, which is pretty incredible. So Dallas, be ready. But here's the thing, though. Here's the real reason why I think Dallas is going to come ready to play and the reason why I think they're going to win tonight. You can't fake desperate. The more desperate team usually wins in the playoffs. Individual games, at least. That's why we don't see that many sweeps. Okay, I know that we like to think that teams play as hard as they can and that it's the NBA Finals and everybody's balls to the wall and all those things, but it's not true. That's just not the way that it works. Human nature doesn't allow that. It gets in the way. No matter what the Boston Celtics do, they know they're up 2-0. They know it. And no matter what the Mavericks do, they know they're down 2-0. And when your back is against the wall, you just naturally play harder. That's just the way that these things work. And no matter what Boston does, they are not going to be able to match the energy of a team that's down 0-2. Okay, that's why even bad teams usually don't get swept. That's why they usually get at least one. Because human nature just gets in the way. That's why there have only been 9 sweeps out of the 77 NBA Finals that have been played. The most recent one coming in 2018 when the Warriors swept the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, Dallas is going to win tonight because you can't fake desperate. And I also think that they're going to shoot well, okay? Like, they've shot 13 of 53 from 3 in the finals so far. That's not even 25%. That won't continue. And whenever I make this point to my buddies, they're very quick, oh so very quick, to look at me and be like, well, Jonathan, Boston hasn't shot the ball well either. And that's just not the case. Boston didn't shoot the ball well in game 2. They shot 38% from 3 in game 1. Like, that's really good, okay? Like, if you shoot 38% from 3 for a season like Boston did, then you're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. When you compare the two teams through the first 2 games, Boston has shot the ball astronomically better than Dallas has. When you compare the two, both were really bad in game 2. But give me the Mavs tonight because you can't fake desperate. You can't. And the more desperate team tends to win these games. Dallas is more desperate. Kyrie's due to play well. He just is. I think he finally gets it going tonight, and they finally start hitting some threes. That's been the biggest thing. Like people want to point to Kyrie and how he hasn't played well. Well, neither has any of the other non-Luka Doncic Mavs. So, and the defense for Dallas, I think, has been good. Okay, they held him to, 105 points or whatever it was in game 2. Like, that's not a great offensive game. They held him to under 110 points in game 1 as well. Right? So, like, defensively, the Mavericks have been fine. They just have to figure out the offensive side of the ball. And that, like, when you have Luka and Kyrie, I have a hard time believing that you don't eventually figure out the offensive side of the ball. I have a hard time believing that. So, Mavs win tonight. Last time I checked, they were 1.5 point favorites. I'm taking that. I tell you that right now. They're covering the 1.5 points. They're winning by more than 1. Okay, because once again, you can't fake desperate. When we come back here in about 4-ish minutes, Tony East is set to join me. We're going to talk Caitlin Clark, the Fever, probably a little bit of finals as well. Love having Tony on. It's, one of my favorite segments that I do all week because he's just a smart guy who gets it and pays attention to everything that's going on. So Tony East joining me here in about 4 minutes.